Good evening, residents of Mountbatten, friends and supporters. Thank you very much for coming to join me for tonight's rally. This evening, I'm very grateful that many of you have taken time out from your busy schedule to join me. This rally was planned on the basis that there's only one speaker. So before I continue with my rally speech in English, allow me to say something in Malay for our Malay friends. Para pengundi Mountbatten dan hadirin sekalian, terima kasih para semua kerana mengambil masa untuk hadir di sini. Saya amat berbesar hati. Sudah 9 tahun saya menjadi ahli parlimen Mountbatten. Dan selama ini saya telah diberi peluang untuk bertemu dan bekerja sama dengan masyarakat Melayu di sini. Kami berbincang tentang hal-hal semasa secara terbuka melalui sesi Coffee Talk yang diadakan setiap tahun. Saya juga mengambil bahagian dalam perayaan Majlis Iftar dan juga perjumpaan hari raya setiap tahun dengan ahli-ahli masyarakat Islam. Masyarakat Melayu Mountbatten telah banyak memberi sokongan padu kepada kerja-kerja saya di sini. Saya benar-benar terima kasih dan menghargai sokongan Anda. Saya harap Anda semua akan terus memberikan sokongan kepada saya untuk 5 tahun yang akan datang. Undilah saya, supaya saya dapat terus berjuang bersama Anda, untuk Anda, demi Singapura. Terima kasih. Now let me say something in Mandarin for my Mandarin friends. 谢谢大家出席今晚的群众大会，非常感谢你们今晚抽出宝贵的时间来到这里。我是人民行动党候选人林谋全。先让我简单的自我介绍。我的父母亲是在三马路 Queen Street 一带卖水果的小贩。当我是学生时，直到我当兵之前，我的时间都是在我父母亲的路边摊卖水果。我的父母亲为了一家，白天忙，晚上也忙。他们每天都在水果摊，连农历新年都在工作。很多年，新年初一，我不是去拜访居民们，不是去拜访亲戚们，我都是在水果摊卖水果。所以在除夕那晚，我就会在我的父母亲的水果摊帮他们卖水果。回去了过后，新年初一，我又回去了水果摊，向我的父母亲拜年，跟他们说一声新年快乐，然后就继续在水果摊卖水果。70年代，我们是唯一在三马路新年开档的水果摊，不像现在。我知道现在很多人都在新年的时候有做生意，不过在70年代，只有我们是在三马路中唯一开档的水果摊。我知道贫穷是什么样的生活，是怎么样的意思，而我告诉自己，如果有一天能够成功的话，我一定要我的父母亲过着更好的日子。我很幸运，我能够努力的读书。1988年毕业了， 1年过后就当上了律师。我没有什么的有钱的朋友，我的父母亲大家知道也不是有钱人。不过我能够顺利当上律师，我家的国会议员李文宪医生，那时我是住在吴朝坊，就是亚伦巴沙区的。他当时是我们的国会议员，而我想，既然我当了律师，我怎么样能够回复国家、回复我们政府给我的支持？我想在区内服务，就这样就当上了义工。我从来没有想过会当上国会议员，当时我只是想回馈社会，毕竟社会帮了我很多，也给了我很多机会。我就这样的在基层服务了16年，从1990年到2006年。2006年大选时，我被问是否是愿意参选。当时我觉得很惊讶，因为我只是一个基层领袖，我从来没有想过将来没有想过会从政当一名议员。当时我对政府的政策表现是相当满意的，不过我也有一些不赞成的政策。比如我不赞成当时有了一个赌场，我也认为一些政策太机械化了。但是我想，如果我能够影响政策，让政府更亲民、更关心人民，我不妨试试看，尽我的能力影响到我们政府的政策，使到我们政府会更亲民、更关心人民。从政前，我问过我自己，选民要的是怎么样的一个议员？对我来说，我深信议员是服务居民，代表选民发言，让国会听到大家的声音，而并不是为自己的荣耀。国会议员应该谦虚和有同理心。一个国会议员也应该要懂得聆听，不可以高高在上。他应该脚踏实地、勤劳、热心的助人。最重要的是要诚实和廉政。2006年到现在，大家很帮我。我当了议员已经有9年了，在这9年里，我在国会发言无数次，我的演讲内容和评语也在中文媒体上报道。我希望大家都有阅读这些演讲报道。我也尽我能力，我的所能，改善我们区住的环境，包括私人住宅和政府租屋区。每一次我们收到居民的反馈，我们都会尽全力去做。我们也组织了无数区内的活动，让大家更认识居民和木工厨。我和我的团体将会继续努力改善居民的住家环境。需要做的工作还很多，我希望能获到大家的支持，继续为大家服务。在过去的1周竞选活动中，我遇到很多选民们，而很多选民们都表示会支持我和支持人民行动党，而有很多也告诉我，我们有眼睛看的， 我们看得到你做的服务，你为我们的这一区服务。我想向居民们说声谢谢，谢谢大家的鼓励，谢谢大家的支持。我向大家保证，我会加倍努力，服务蒙巴登区的居民，让蒙巴登这个大家庭更好，可以吗？这个星期五是投票日，希望大家为我多年的表现和成绩投支持票，投人民行动党。谢谢大家。
Thank you, Mr. Lim。谢谢林谋全候选人。蒙巴登，听不到你们的声音，大家可以大声一点吗 ？Who do you support? Who do you support? Who is the better candidate? Who can run your town council better? Are you sure? Can you be louder? Can I hear you? One more time. Who is the best candidate for Mountbatten? One more time. Okay, thank you very much. And we will now hear Mr. Lim speak from his heart. Who says Mountbatten has no heart, right? We all have hearts. Is Mountbatten your home? Or Mountbatten your house? Mountbatten must be your home? Yes, okay, now we'll hear Mr. Lim speak from his heart. Thank you very much.
Before I say continue in English, there's someone that let me say something to some of my close relatives. 大家好，阿公、阿媽、uncle、auntie，感謝大家今日來支持我，我真正感動。我做議員9年了，希望是10多年哈。我拄到真侪支持我的好朋友，真正聽我的uncle、auntie、阿公、阿媽，我感謝大家，大家給我安尼款的愛心。真重要，有真侪人問我，真侪人講我，你真正聽老人，你真正聽老人家。互我解釋者，我聽老人家，因為這是我的老母教我的。我的老母一向來甲我講，你若是做議員，你就要照顧即阮人的老百姓，照顧阮人阿公阿嬷、阿伯阿姆、uncle auntie。所以我的老母一向來鼓勵我講。你若是做議員，千萬唔通好練，唔通喪夢。你真實就要照顧阮人區的前輩。所以今日我真正歡喜，因為我的老母佇兜，所以我甲我的老母講，感謝你支持。
林媽媽，我們的林媽媽在這裡，請大家給她熱烈的掌聲。感謝林媽媽。蒙巴登，我們可不可以讓林媽媽感覺到你們的溫暖？
所以感謝媽咪，感謝你今日教給我呢款，因為真是 无乐教啊，我无今日有通做医官，感谢你栽培，感谢你我这教导。
谢谢林妈妈，请你就坐。好。
Friends and residents of Mountbatten, thank you for cheering me on. I tell you, I'm really touched. Earlier on, I just explained to residents that I care deeply for the elderly in Mountbatten. And I do so because of what I've been told many a time by my parents. So I'm really happy that my mother is here today, and she has taught me to really take care of the elderly in Mountbatten. So for that reason, the elderly here has a special place in my heart. There are people whom I look up to, and my mother has always told me, no matter what you do, if you are a member of parliament, please make sure you treat your elderly well. Respect them as you will respect me. And for that reason, I've always made it a special point to look after the elderly in Mountbatten. So I thank my mother for what she has taught me. Please don't stress my mother. So I'm sure you know who I am. My name is Biow Chuan. I'm the candidate for the People's Action Party. For those who have not known me, let me say something about myself. I think this is important because I hope to give you some background of who I am and where I come from. My journey started in 1990. I just started work as a lawyer, and I consider myself fortunate. Despite the fact that I come from humble background, I do not have rich parents, I have no connections. I was able to graduate from university and had just landed a decent job as a lawyer. And this was in 1990, where only 5% of the population were able to attend university. I was never an outstanding student, not a single scholarship to my name. So I'm not a scholar. Some people will call me a farmer. In fact, looking back, I am amazed that I could make it all the way to university. Throughout my school days, until I enlisted in the army, I spent most of my free time at my parents' roadside store at Queen Street. Queen Street is just next to the current Bugis Junction. And I helped my parents to sell fruits. Every other day when I'm free, no homework, I will go to my parents' place to sell fruits. And for that reason, some of you will know that I speak very loudly because I'm used to shouting, 3 for $1, 4 for $1, 4 apples for $1. That's how I grew up throughout my younger days. My parents toil day and night to provide for the family. They work every day, including during the Chinese New Year period. So for many years, I never celebrated reunion dinner. We would be at the store selling fruits. I will go home, rest, and the next morning, I will go back to the fruit store to give greetings to my parents. So the first day of Chinese New Year was not spent visiting relatives, but spent at the fruit store selling fruits. Those years, in 1970s, we were the only fruit store open for business in the Queen Street area. I know what is it like to be poor. I know what is it like to have to toil for a living. And I told myself that one day, if I ever succeed, I will make life better for my parents. I'm grateful that with the Singapore system of government, we can still succeed in life if we are prepared to work hard. So barely 1 year after graduation, I volunteered my services to my MP in Jalan Besar. I was then staying in Rochor Centre. And my MP was Dr. Lee Boon Yang. I initially gone to him with suggestions as to how to improve the Rochor HDB estate where I lived. And in particular, every night, I was killing many, many mosquitoes. So I wanted to suggest to him how to eradicate mosquito breeding in the estate. So for those of you who are struggling with mosquitoes in your flat, let me share with you. I understand how you feel. Because in the 1990s, I was in exactly the same position, trying to catch mosquitoes. After interacting with Dr. Lee Boon Yang for almost 1 year, I felt that there were ways in which I could contribute. I was already a lawyer, and hence I offered my services to him. It's never been my aspiration to be an MP. I sincerely wanted to return to society the blessings and opportunities which I had. My take is that if I can make it, then anyone who is willing to work hard can also make it in Singapore. To me, that is a Singapore dream. Without a scholarship, with poor parents, you can still make it and succeed in life. That is my Singapore dream. I've served in the grassroots organizations for 16 years, from 1990 to 2006. In 2006, I was asked whether I would step forward to stand for election. And I was very surprised because it had never crossed my mind that I would be a politician. Overall, I was happy with the Singapore government, but there were a few policies which I did not agree with at that time. I did not like the setting up of the casino. I also felt that some of the government policies at that time were too transactional, too rule-based, and did not manage to help those who were caught by the rules, who had slipped through the cracks. If I were perfectly happy with the government, then I would not have stepped forward to serve as an MP. I would concentrate on developing my law firm. But when I was interviewed by the Prime Minister, I realized that this is what the PAP wanted. People who are committed to Singapore and wanted to help make policies work better for all of us. That is what the PAP wanted. People who are committed to Singapore and want to make policies better for all of us. I said earlier, I come from a low-income family. I know what it is like to be poor and to be struggling. In fact, I had to take a study loan from NTUC to pay for my living expenses during my final year of university. Without the loan, I'll be struggling to complete my university studies. Hence, I felt if I could influence policies to make the government a kinder and more caring government, a less bureaucratic government, I will do my best and try. Let me next talk about the role of an MP. Before I entered politics, I've always asked myself, what does a resident want in an MP? For myself, I've always believed that an MP's role is to serve the people and to represent their views in Parliament. It should never be a quest for personal glory or something to add to your resume. It is all about serving the people. An MP should be compassionate and humble. He must be sincere and prepared to listen to his residents and not be arrogant. He must be down to earth, diligent, and have a passion to help others. Above all, he must be honest and have a sense of integrity. For those of you who have worked with me, and for some of you who have interacted with me during dialogues or chit-chat sessions, you know that I work very hard to keep to these values. I believe that people who run for political office should be honest. They should never make promises that they do not intend to keep. I've served as a Member of Parliament for 9 years. I chair the Government Parliamentary Committee for Education for the past 5 years. I sit on the GPC for Transport and National Development. And I do so because these are topics that are close to my heart: education, transport, and housing. I also serve as the President of the Consumer Association since 2012. And 6 years before that, I was a Vice President of the Consumer Association. And this is a non-paid volunteer appointment. I do not get paid for being the President of CASE. I spent much time championing the consumer cause inside Parliament as well as outside Parliament. Now, if you check the parliamentary record, which is publicly available on the internet, my attendance in Parliament is near perfect. I missed 2 sessions because I was sent for a Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference as Singapore's parliamentary representative. Now, in Parliament, I speak regularly on matters which are close to my heart. I don't speak just because I want to clock up attendance. I speak on matters close to my heart. Now, in the candidate's message which was sent to you, I think some of you who are residents of Mountbatten, you have received this, the message from me. I've shared on what I had raised in Parliament over the past 4 years. I have urged the Ministry of Education to have less emphasis on academic performance and to stress the importance of character values in education. I wasn't impressed with some of the scholars who were doing very well in their careers, but had no empathy for the men in the street. So I felt that you can be very smart, but if you do not have character values, something is missing. I was concerned about excessive stress in education. I had 2 children at that time in primary school. So I asked MOE to consider less homework and to allow students more time to play. I also asked for more support for students with learning disabilities. And I'm happy that MOE's focus has gradually changed to more emphasis on character development and citizenship. There are also more programs for weaker students. So there are also more programs for weaker students with a smaller student-teacher ratio. For transport, some of you will remember in 2011, I stood at the bus stop to check bus arrival timings, and I posted my frustration on my Facebook. So I pushed for better bus services, for buses to come on time and be less congested. So I believe that this was part of the impetus for more buses to be injected into the bus system. I also pushed for better bus connection from residents' home to the nearest MRT station. And this resulted in service number 11 for the Tanjong Rhu private estate. I also spoke in Parliament and raised my concern about increasing cost of living, and in particular on healthcare costs. I urged the government to provide GST vouchers for retirees without income, but who stay in private properties. They have no income. They are cash poor, asset rich. So I asked, can we do something more for such residents? I urged the government to be more compassionate to divorcees and to singles. I appealed to the government to cut down on the number of S passes and employment passes because I was concerned for middle management professionals. For several years, I had asked for lifts to be built at pedestrian overhead bridges for the elderly, in particular at Jalan Batu area, and even for traffic crossing to facilitate crossing for our elderly residents. Back again to my mother, who said, take care of the elderly. From my interaction with government ministers, I know that they listen because we can see how policies are gradually adjusted with more emphasis on welfare of Singaporeans due to these changing demographics. We have seen lower healthcare costs for the lower income with the CHAS card, the blue or the orange card. The Pioneer Generation package was given to all Pioneer Generation to thank them for building Singapore up. And it was given to all PG, Pioneer Generation residents, regardless of where they live. So whether you stay in a private estate, or in a HDB flat, a rental flat, 3-room, 5-room, you get the Pioneer Generation benefits. MediShield Life was introduced to allow everyone to be assured that medical costs will be available at reasonable costs, that medical care will be available at reasonable costs. We have seen more BTO flats being built so that the younger generation can get their flats faster. And more than 900 additional buses have been injected into the system so that we have more buses on the road, there's less congestion, and more comfortable ride for bus passengers. The MRT signalling network has also been upgraded, and we will soon see a more reliable MRT system. I acknowledge there are still areas where the government can improve upon, but I urge Singaporeans to also acknowledge the rest of the good work done by the government. We should not measure the government by only what you are unhappy with. Please consider the fact that we have a first-class government which is efficient and non-corrupt. Our school system, our education system is one of the best in the world. Regardless of your starting point, you have the opportunity to progress. So even if you are studying normal technical, normal academic, express, whether you go to ITE, Polytechnic, you will be able to gradually make it to university. The government has provided affordable housing and works very hard to ensure that every one of us have job opportunities in the future. So think of the fact that we have such a low unemployment figure in Singapore. It's something to be proud of and the envy of countries in Europe where the unemployment for the youth is very high. Think too of the excellent amenities which is all over Singapore and how we have transformed Singapore into a first-rate city. Our gardens by the bay, our botanic gardens are respected throughout the world and envy of many people. I want to talk about immigration. The flow of immigration has been cut down drastically. And I want to stress there is no 6.9 million target. This government is fully aware of the frustration of many Singaporeans with regards to excessive foreigners competing with them for jobs. And I think many of you know that action has been taken to reduce the inflow of foreign workers. In fact, these days during my Meet the People session, I received many appeals from businessmen asking to employ expat workers for their company, failing which their company will have difficulties surviving. So the effect of the changes to the immigration policy is being felt on the ground. So I ask Singaporeans, I ask the voters of Mountbatten, please be patient. We are changing. We are changing for the better, and we will make Singapore a better country for all of us. I've interacted with our government ministers for 9 years. And through my interaction, I know that they care deeply for Singaporeans. And we have a compassionate and caring government. But it is not a perfect government. From time to time, there are policies which might be right at the time of implementation, but needs to be tweaked after several years to take into account changing conditions. And for every government policy, we need to consider a right balance of different groups, and many times we have trade-offs. Take, for example, CPF. When it was first introduced, retirement age was 55 years old. But with life expectancy rising, the concern is that once you use up your CPF savings, who will provide for you for the rest of your life? And despite our many efforts to explain CPF policies, there will be people who feel, I want my CPF money back at 55. But if he reaches 55, he withdraws his CPF savings and he uses them up within the next 10 years. Who will have to look after that person once he uses up his CPF savings? If the government refuses to help them, it is a heartless government. But if the government gives them financial help, it will be future generations of taxpayers who will have to fund the social assistance program for those who have fully used up their CPF savings. Hence, the government says that each one of us have to work to ensure that we save enough for our own future, especially because there is a longer life expectancy. Even though it's not a popular policy, there is a need to prevent future generations from being burdened excessively. For HDB flats, a resident once asked me, can we cap the price of resale flats so that their children can buy a flat near their home? And I know that flats in Mountbatten are expensive. Resale flats in Mountbatten are expensive. But should we impose a cap for the resale flats? For those of you who are existing flat owners, I think the answer is clear. You don't want to have a price cap on how you can sell your flat. The government's only assurance is that they will ensure that every Singaporean can buy an affordable flat for their family. But they cannot assure you, if you sell your flat, use up your money, that you can keep going back to buy flats. They also cannot assure you that the exact location of the flat will be what you want exactly. The reality is everyone hopes to live near town and hope to pay for the price of a flat in the non-mature estate. But can the government provide for such home buyers? It will be difficult. Everyone wants to live near town and pay a low cost. So every policy will make someone unhappy. And if every detractor says, I don't care that the government has done so well for Singapore, I'm angry because of this policy, I will not support the government, then our country will go downhill because we simply cannot please everyone. I now want to talk about party whip. My opponent, Ms. Janet Chong, has said that I'm bound by the party whip and I cannot speak my mind. This is far from the truth. During my 9 years in Parliament, never once have I been asked not to speak my mind. The Prime Minister values each PAP MP for his independence of thought and how they can add value to the People's Action Party. So it is inaccurate to say that only an opposition MP can speak his or her mind. Many PAP MPs, including myself, speak our minds very honestly. I have spoken extensively on education, on transport policies and on HDB policies. During the debate on ministerial salaries in 2011, I acknowledged the need to pay our ministers and civil servants competitively, but I criticized the policy of pegging their salary to the top earners in the economy. I wasn't told to stop speaking. And recently, in April this year, I urged the government to give priorities to Singaporeans for academic employment and asked, can we make all human resource departments in universities be headed by Singaporeans to ensure that eligible Singaporeans are given due consideration for employment? MOE did not agree, and they didn't like what I said, but they didn't stop me from saying what I felt to be the views of the people. So it is clear that a PAP MP can speak his mind and argue a case for his residents. As the president of CASE, I raised difficult issues about consumer matters. I spoke on the Sim Lim Square saga. I urged the government, don't leave all consumer issues to the court. Prosecute traders who are cheating, who are dishonest, instead of referring consumers to the civil courts to recover their monies. And MTI heard. MTI prosecuted those who have cheated and those who are dishonest. So if you have a fair point and it is beneficial to Singapore, the government will consider your suggestion and will look further into it. Let me share that the Prime Minister meets the PAP MPs very regularly, and we can discuss whatever concerns we have. Within the GPCs, the government parliamentary committees, we also meet the ministers regularly to discuss policy issues, and we share our thoughts very frankly with them. So for Ms. Jeanette Chong, who says that I cannot speak my mind, she is wrong. I too am an established lawyer with my own law firm. I have my own independence of thought and freedom to say what I want. There is no reason for me to keep quiet just because I worry about what the Prime Minister says or wants me to say. So we engage in debate, we engage in discussion. But once these issues have been discussed and debated on as a matter of collective responsibility, we follow the decision made. We cannot be superstar saying whatever we want without regard to what we have discussed and debated on. So when Ms. Jeanette Chong accuses me of not being able to speak for residents because of the party whip, she's just trying to score a point without understanding how the actual system works. All PAP MPs speak their mind freely and in fact have many avenues to raise their concerns to government ministers. The party whip applies to every politician in a political party. If Ms. Jeanette Chong is elected and she is told by SPP's Ms. Lina Chiam to vote in a certain manner, she will have to do so, whether she likes it or not. She is subject to her same party whip of her party. And she knows it, because this is how the parliamentary democracy works. If she disagrees with the leadership, then she has to resign from the SPP. And this is what Hazel Pua did. She resigned from NSP because she disagreed with NSP's decision to contest Macpherson. But she did not immediately join another political party just because she wanted to contest the election. Let me share. Mrs. Lina Chiam has been an NC MP, non-constituency MP for 4 years. Ask her how many bills did Mrs. Chiam vote against during her 4-year term as a non-constituency MP. More importantly, how many bills did Mrs. Lina Chiam manage to change because she voted against the bill? The answer is obvious. None. You can say all you want. You can vote against the bill, but you cannot change the bill. So if Ms. Jeanette Chong is elected, no matter how fearless she is in Parliament, she cannot change the bill. It is always easy to criticize a bill, especially if you don't have to take responsibility for it, you don't have to implement the bill, or you don't have to worry if the law results in adverse consequences. Voters of Mountbatten, if you want to change a policy, it is far better for you to talk to me, persuade me to see your point of view. And it's much easier for me as a PAP MP to sit down with the government minister to explain why some government policies need to be tweaked or even changed. For the opposition, for Ms. Jeanette Chong to enter Parliament thinking that she can fight or demand for change suggests that she doesn't understand how parliamentary democracy works. Over the years, I'm happy to say we were able to gently persuade the government to adjust, to change some of the policies. So I said earlier, the emphasis in MOE is more about character, values, and citizen development. MOE has provided more pathways for students with differing abilities. Polytechnic students have more opportunities to progress to universities. During my time, if you study in Polytechnic, that's it. You can't go to university because you've already taken one bite of the subsidy. But today, if you go to Poly, you can continue to the university. And we have a SIT set up just for Polytechnic students to progress to SIT. MND has also given priority to couples to purchase flats so that they can set up their families quickly. Now, several PAP MPs spoke about the plight of singles. And again, we were able to persuade MND to relax the government policy to allow singles to buy flats direct from HDB. And that's something that we're proud of, gently persuading the government to change policies to favor those whom we feel are disadvantaged. We were also able to persuade the Transport Minister to allow polytechnic students to pay the same transport fare as JC students. Some of you who are in polytechnic, you know you pay more. You pay as a tertiary student, but now you pay a JC student's rate. And then MOE has also tweaked the primary one admission policy to give absolute priority to Singaporeans. That means all Singaporeans will have absolute priority to go into primary one, over and ahead of permanent residents and foreigners. And this is again something to show that the government is listening and changing its policy. After receiving several feedback from MPs about non-reliability of buses, and I did so in 2011, Ministry of Transport came up with a scheme for more buses to be brought into the bus network so that our bus journeys have become more comfortable and arrive on time. And this morning, I was at the bus stop, canvassing to residents outside Block 56, Cassia Crescent. And I asked them, how is the bus arriving on time? Do you have to wait very long? And many of them says it is much better compared to 2011. So friends, voters, of Mountbatten, what you need is an MP who is compassionate, willing to listen, willing to go to the government and parliament to argue your case and persuade the government to see his voters' point of view. And more importantly, you need someone who is able to work with the government to ensure that we have good policies which will bring Singapore forward for the next 50 years. We have celebrated SG50. We want to be able to work together to celebrate SG100 in the same manner that we celebrate SG50 this year. I've been working hard for the past 9 years. I have a track record of speaking my mind, regardless of whether the government likes to hear it or not. And I try to gently persuade the government to adjust its policies. Is Ms. Jeanette Chong able to do that? Does she have the compassion and the patience to listen to the voters? I think none of us really knows the answer because many of my residents say they have not seen her for the past 4 years until just before the election. So what do they say? Bo hua tio, never see her. I haven't seen her. 唔知對到都跳出來. And she was here contesting in 2011. But 2011 to now, how often did residents see her? One resident told me, 2 weeks ago, she was already campaigning. So she went to her house, and my resident said, I have problems with mosquitoes just outside my house. Can you help me? And the reply given to her, go and see your MP. So no effort to listen, no effort to explain. And I would have thought that since she's already campaigning, she would have at least paused to try to find a solution. But she referred the resident back to me, and so the resident came to complain to me. Let me talk about constituency work. I've served here for 9 years as the MP for Mountbatten. Many of you are here because you know me. You have met me. You've gotten to know me better during this period. I conduct Meet the People session weekly. I make house visits weekly. I attend community events weekly. There are also many times when I walk alone in a constituency at night after my meetings. After my meetings, when they finish, I walk alone, checking the constituency, checking the estate. And some of you have seen me, and you have said, hey, Mr. Lim, the Distau chose me. What are you doing here? What are you doing at the car park? The Distau car park chose me. And I tell them that, well, I'm carrying out inspection, checking the place, making sure that we have no problems in the estate. Or if there are problems, I will get my town council to attend to it. I jog along Gardens by the Bay East, along Tanjong Ru, along Mayer, to understand the condition of the park connector. I've stood at the traffic junction of Tanjong Katong South Road to observe cars trying to make U-turn because many of residents in Amber tell me the U-turn is too narrow, cannot make it. So I stood there for 10 minutes watching to see how many cars cannot make the U-turn. And that's what I do as an MP. Thank you. So my message, the candidate's message to you, I've listed all the improvement works which I've done in the constituency. I not only visited HDB flats regularly, I walk and visit the landed properties as well. And for the condos, I visited more than 40 condos over the past 4 years. And let me cite them because it's not just bluff, you know. Let me cite the condos that I visited. I visited Coastal Ru, Waterside, Water Place, Sanctuary Green, Pebble Bay, Casuarina Cove, Park Shore, River Edge, Mayor Park, Katong Park Towers, Makina, Hawaii Tower, Sovereign, Maya Suite, The Esther, One Amber, Amber Park, Amber Point, Amber Residences, Seaview Point, King's Mansion, The Vertis, Head Court, Chelsea Lodge, Mountbatten Suites, Waterbank, Dakota Residence, East Mills, Bengton Mansions. I'm not frightened to list them because you can always check with your MCST, did I or did I not visit those condominiums? And I don't do so just before the election. I have been visiting them over the past 4 years. And each time I make a visit, I take the feedback, I facilitate a dialogue with government agencies to make things better. So we work with LTA to get a bus service to link residents in Tanjong Ru, private estate, to the nearest MRT station. We persuaded LTA to install a zebra crossing outside Pebble Bay for the safety of the residents. We asked LTA to tweak traffic signal timing so that cars do not get held up at traffic lights. We had 2 right turns at Tanjong Katong South Road, and we pushed for a U-turn. I spoke about it in 2011, and it came about. We made it more convenient for residents to return home, for those residents staying in Amber Estate to return home. We asked PUB to repair drains and cover the drains in the private estates at Jalan Seaview. We got MParks to upgrade the equipment at Mayor Park and Katong Park. We got URA to expand the car park at Tanjong Katong Road to facilitate parking for the patrons of the residents. We got SLA to make an empty plot of land next to Head Court available for the residents' use. Now that is something that an MP would do for the residents, not just talk in Parliament. Within the HDB estate, the town council has built more covered linkways because it's important. It's important for covered linkways to provide a shelter in times of rain or hot sun. We've upgraded fitness corners and playgrounds. We've installed CCTV at every lift to provide you more security. We've built study corners and drop-off points so you can alight even with the rain. We got HDB to build lifts at the multi-story car park. We expanded car parks at Kallang Estate Market so that patrons of the market will have more space to park. We implement the home improvement program for 10 HDB blocks. We got LTA to install traffic lights to allow the elderly to cross the road safely. And this is at Old Airport Road. And this is after a dialogue with the residents of Dakota residents. They said, it is dangerous for the elderly to be crossing. Please build a traffic crossing there. Indeed, we took up their feedback, we studied the road, and we built a traffic crossing to make it safer for the elderly. Now, all these are constituency improvement works which are important to me. Why? Because it affects the lives of residents. So I disagree when Ms. Jeanette Chong say that doing all this work is just being a glorified estate manager. Can you imagine if a resident comes to me and asks me to provide a covered linkway or some improvement to the estate? Can you imagine? I tell them, go and see your estate manager. Then why be an MP? You can't do anything. You don't even want to hear feedback. And if a condo resident comes to see me and asks me, can you help me with a yellow box outside my estate? Should I tell them? Go and see LTA. This is an estate matter. So many times, what you need in an MP is a caring and sincere MP to nudge the government agencies to review your requests. And that's what I've been trying to do. I confess that I'm not always successful, but I tell you, I put my heart to it, and I work very hard to persuade government agencies. And even if I'm not successful, I will keep fighting for it. I will keep pushing the government agencies to consider other options so that the lives of Mountbatten residents will become better. I spent much time in Mountbatten trying to build community bonds, trying to improve the lives of my residents. My team of community leaders and myself, we organized many events, and I think some of you have seen or participated in them. National Day Light Up at Mountbatten. Have you attend and see the fireworks at the National Day Light Up? Do you take part in the pony ride? Do you take part in the games that were there? We organized community walks together, town days, Mid-Autumn Festival, Hari Raya events, Deepavali or Diwali events, movie screening, and other events, just to bring the community together, just to build community bonds amongst people of different status, whether you stay in a private property, HDB flat, whether you live in a rental flat or otherwise, whether you're of a different race, we bring you together to build community bonds. And that is so important because we live in a multiracial, multi-religious country. And at such events, I make myself accessible. I'm always there because I want to get to know you better and I want to hear your feedback. It is important. Without your feedback, who am I speaking for when I go to Parliament? I can't say that I'm speaking for you if I don't know what are the residents' concerns. Those who have met me know what kind of person I am. What is my character? I've been here 9 years. I cannot hide my character after being in Mountbatten for so many years. In fact, throughout the campaign period, Many residents assure me they appreciate the work that my community leaders and I do. So a lot of them tell me, I got eyes to see. 很多居民告诉我，我有眼睛看的，我看到你做工，我知道的。So they tell me, I can see that you are doing work, and thank you for serving the residents. So it touched me. I'm grateful for residents who have given me the encouragement. I know the potential impact that an MP can have on your life, not just speaking in Parliament. If you have an issue with the government, you hope that you have an MP who is willing to hear you out and do his best to appeal on your behalf to the government agency. You hope that your MP will help you to fight all the way to the minister. Now, if the MP is someone who has never done a Meet the People session, who may not even know what government agency to write to, who may only be active in the constituency once in 4 years, then you will be in serious trouble because you can't get help. So politics is not a game where you can come in 4 years once and claim to champion people's rights when you don't even visit them enough to know what the residents need. So when I say I care, I want to make Mountbatten a better place for all of you. Trust me. That's what I've been saying in my Mountbatten Connects, the newsletter that's been sent to you for so long. I care. I want to make Mountbatten a better place for all of you. So trust me. Look at my track record of serving since 1990. 25 years of service, 16 years as a grassroots leader, 9 years as an MP. And the fact that I've been serving with passion to make lives better for all of us. So I appeal to you, trust me. Trust me because I care for all of you. Now let me turn to the candidate from SPP, Ms. Jeanette Chong. She's a lawyer, just like me. Many people say, wow, a lawyer, just like you, very strong competition. Indeed, I say, she's very articulate and she speaks well. She contested last election, 2011. But since then, many residents said they have not seen her. The only time that they saw her was when she distributed her materials just before the election. In her manifesto, she said she will work with the VWOs, a volunteer welfare organization operating in Mountbatten. So I asked the 3 VWOs in Mountbatten. I asked Dong Ling Kok, the one at Dakota Crescent. I asked Friends at St. Hilda's. I asked House of Joy. And they said they have never been visited by her. So I'm surprised that in her manifesto, she said she has been working the ground tirelessly in Mountbatten since 2011. And she wants to work with the stakeholders in Mountbatten, the VWOs, when she has not even visited them for the past 4 years. So before you go to the poll on Friday, I hope that Mountbatten voters will ask her a few questions. First, what is her record of community service? In 2011, last election, during the rally, I asked, what have you done for the needy and lower income in this constituency? This was in 2011. So in other words, in 2011, when she said she wanted to serve the people of Mountbatten, where has she been before 2011, before she stood for election in 2011? Now, after she lost the election in 2011, did she continue to serve the Mountbatten residents? And I tell you, as a politician, I keep track of my competitor. She's my political competitor. I ask my activists, alert me each time she appears in the constituency, because we want to know what she's been doing. The answer confirms my thought. She goes into a flurry of activities just before the general election. So I asked the voters of Mountbatten, ask her, what has she done for the lower income in Mountbatten since 2011? It is the most obvious way to show that you care for the people of Mountbatten. Have you hosted even a dinner for the lower income in Mountbatten? I would have at least expected she would do a dinner every year for them to help them. But the answer is same as 2011, nothing. Now, if she's elected as your MP, will she walk the ground the way I do? Will she take time to listen to your feedback and your concern? Has she even conducted a Meet the People session before? If she's elected, will she carry out constituency work before the next election? I don't know the answer. You need to ask her that and ask her to give you a convincing reply. Next, I hope that you will ask Ms. Jeanette Chong, what does she stand for? She started her political career with the Reform Party. Then she left to join NSP and contested the election under the NSP flag in 2011. And she rose all the way to become Secretary General of NSP. But when she lost the bid to be president of NSP, she did not stay on in NSP, but left to join SPP a few months later. So as a politician, what are the principles which she stands for? If she has changed 3 political parties in 5 years, you need to ask her whether will she stay with SPP after this GE. All the statements which she issued as the NSP Secretary General, does she still believe in them? Or does she now align herself with SPP policies? Why did her political beliefs in NSP change just because she lost the election to become NSP president? Does she have a sense of loyalty to the political party which supported her bid to be an MP in 2011? I think she needs to explain to the voters why she has switched her loyalty so quickly and aligned herself to another political party in a span of a few months. You need to know, because you want to vote for her, you better find out what she stands for. I now want to just spend a bit of time talking about SPP's manifesto for Mountbatten. Ms. Chong speaks about raising 100,000 to set up the Mountbatten Social Mobility Bursary. Now my response is, why didn't she set up the Social Mobility Bursary after 2011? If she feels that there's a need to help residents, why must she wait 4 years to do so? I would be very impressed with her if she had set up the bursary in 2011 or 2012 to show the residents of Mountbatten, I want to help the residents of Mountbatten. I would set up the Social Mobility Bursary. Do that in 2011 or 2012. I would be impressed. But no, she did not do so. Is this merely an election promise? For myself, we have already been helping the lower income since 2006. When I became the MP for Mountbatten, we raised funds from some of our better off residents living in the private estate. They sponsor cash, they sponsor gifts for our lower income residents. And I say thank you to these generous people because they have helped make life better for the lower income in Mountbatten. We provide financial assistance to the needy, and I host a dinner for these residents and their families once every few months. We also raise funds to provide lower income with free meal vouchers. And we started a free legal clinic for the residents since last year. Now, this is not my manifesto. I saw the need, I worked hard, make it happen, and I delivered. It's not just an election promise. It is already happening and done. Last year, 2014, I started a discussion with Lim Hoon Foundation, and I worked with them to provide a 5-year commitment to give away 250,000 in bursaries for the ITE students. And the first bursaries have already been given out on 22nd of June 2015. I don't make a huge song and dance about the work that I do. If there's a need to help low-income residents, let's do it. But I want to say this, it's the work of many volunteers. My style is that see whether there's a need. If so, work with your community leaders, find a solution, help solve the problem. Next in her manifesto, she talks about Dakota Crescent. She wanted to preserve the heritage of Dakota Crescent. But it's not a new idea. I raised a query in Parliament in July 2015, asking MND to consider preserving the flats at Dakota Crescent. The query is in the Parliament record, public knowledge, that I've done so in July 2015. And I posted Minister Kobun Wan's reply on my Facebook on 14th of July. And I invited residents and interested parties to submit ideas for conserving Dakota Crescent to me. In August, I wrote to an architect, Jonathan Poh, to ask him to join me in a project for submission to Ministry of National Development. So her plan to preserve Dakota Crescent are nothing new. And likewise, her idea to explain government policies to residents, to enhance social mobility. I'm already doing them. I'm already spending time with my community leaders every year explaining government policies. I'm already spending lots of time promoting, enhancing social mobility. What is new in her manifesto? Nothing. Nothing at all. Next, can she run a town council? I don't know. What is her experience of running a town council? New. Zero, right. Does she even know what kind of routine and improvement works are required in this constituency? She's publicly said this is the work of the estate manager. So does that mean that she will not make any decisions for HDB estates? If she has to make decisions, what are her considerations for making decisions? Would she be able to keep the estate clean? Now, in contrast, I chair the Marine Parade Town Council since 2010. I've been chairman of Marine Parade Town Council in 2010, and in 2011, I continued until today. I think many of my residents will agree that this estate is well managed, and many of my residents compliment the cleaners for keeping the place clean. But let me stress. So thank you to the cleaners. Thank you to the volunteers for making the Marine Parade, for making Mountbatten estate clean. But let me stress that this is not just my work. Because when you elect an MP, you don't just get one person. You get a whole team of volunteers. So I want to thank my entire team of volunteers. I want to thank my many well-wishers from different communities, from the VWOs, from the religious organizations, from the people at the rehab center at Block 11 Jalan Batu, for helping to make Mountbatten such a beautiful estate and helping me to look after our residents in Mountbatten. I want to thank each and everyone for your help and your encouragement. So let me summarize. There's nothing that SPP's Miss Jeanette Chong can do that I'm unable to do better. I have a proven track record, not just in Parliament, but also work in the constituency. I have a track record of service to the community way before I became an MP. Now, if you disagree with any government policy and you can convince me, I assure you, I will go all the way to the government minister to make a case for you. That is what a PAP MP can do for you. So this Friday, when Singaporeans go to the poll, we're not just electing an MP. We're also electing the next government to run Singapore. Now, if we have a weak government, then the risk is that the good reputation that we have built up over the past 50 years will diminish. We have such an enviable record. Many countries look at Singapore and say that this is a country that is so well run, and it's a country that many foreigners want to stay in. Singapore faces many challenges for the future. We are already facing slower growth as a developed nation. And we are affected by the bigger countries like China and America. Will we become like some European nation where there is large youth unemployment and no economic growth? Now, if there is a crisis, who would you hope to be leading Singapore forward? Now, if there are terrorist attacks in this nation, if there is an ISIS attack, who do you think will be better placed to lead this country to provide more security for Singapore? I agree. So, Friday, come polling day, I hope our voters will consider this matter seriously. We need good government, we need good leadership. I have been with the PAP for 25 years. And some of you know that I'm a religious person. I believe that the PAP is a party with good intent. It is not an evil party, because if it were an evil party, I would have left the party long ago. And I believe amongst the crowd this evening, some of you may have made up your mind as to who to pick this Friday. If you support the SPP, I respect your decision to make your choice, and that you disagree with me or with the People's Action Party. But politics is all about a contest of ideas. It is not about hatred of one party against the other. I've always reminded my supporters that even if we disagree with SPP, we are not enemies. Ms. Jeanette Chong is not my enemy. At the end of the day, we are all Singaporeans. There is no need for people who oppose the PAP to drive a wedge among Singaporeans. And if you read some of the comments on social media, it is just nothing but trying to speak evil about someone who's trying to do good. I won't endorse people speaking evil about SPP. They have different political ideas, different ways to do things. but we are not enemies. We are Singaporeans. United, we can all go further. So united, we can go further. But if as a people we are divided, we will surely fall, and the value of our red passport will diminish. There are many more things to be done to make Singapore better for the next generation. Not just for me, but for your children, for your grandchildren. On the national front, cost of living is something that I'm concerned about. So I will need to talk about how we can contain cost of living at the next parliament. I will need to talk about the need for better employment opportunities for the PMETs and for better transportation network in parliament. Within Mountbatten, I will be pushing for lifts for pedestrian overhead bridges for our elderly residents. I will want to build more covered linkways, to cover more drains, to make Mountbatten a better place for all of us. But very importantly, it's not just the infrastructure. I hope to make Mountbatten a home for all residents. Not just a physical house, but a home where every one of us can live harmoniously together. Everyone behaves in a gracious manner. We know each other and we bond together. That's what I call Mountbatten, a home for all of us. So Singapore is unique and able to do better than many countries because of our political stability. If we have a weak government with constantly bickering legislature, it will surely weaken our reputation. We can all work together to make Mountbatten and Singapore a better home for all of us. So as we come to a close, as we prepare for polling day on Friday, I hope and I urge all of us, let's be united. Let's be united. Because we really want a Singapore that's united, not a Singapore that is divided after the election. Last GE 2011, I closed by saying Majulah PAP. So tonight, instead of saying Majulah PAP, I invite all of you to join me to say Majulah Singapura 3 times. Can we do that? Majulah Singapura! Majulah Singapura! Majulah Singapura! Thank you everyone. Thank you for your kindness. Good night.